They would have had to use the new bit of the A14.
The A14. Yeah, I was going to say they're thankful to the man in the Greyhound.
15 minutes. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thankful to that man in the Greyhound for the engineering work that saves them some time. No, on a Friday night, that's a hell of a trek, isn't it? Yeah, that's talking probably five and a half hours or so. So fair play to them. Yeah, that's really, really impressive.
If only they'd known about the Christmas fair in Woodbridge, they could have made a whole weekend of it.
Do you know how? If only they'd have known that. Yeah, exactly.
Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast discussing Ipswich Town up or down since 2015. I'm Richard Woodard and this is the Flagship show, available every Sunday on video and podcast audio. Joining me to react some 36 hours after Friday night's game with Fleetwood, Seb Brown, David Diamond, gentlemen. Oh, it's a bit of, we're still a bit shell-shocked, aren't we, from Friday night? We haven't really got over it, have we? Seb, we'll start with you. How's things?
Very much so. Yeah, still in a bit of a state of shock. We'll come on and discuss the game, but yeah, ever since kind of 10 p.m, whatever it was on Friday night, I've kind of been a bit like meh, but it is what it is. I guess we'll come on to it. It's also Christmas is arriving in my household today. I've got Christmas market visit and the tree going up. So if you could make this into like a 3.5 hour podcast, that'd be amazing, please.
And Dave, have you not got similar plans?
I have today, off to Woodbridge, the fair at Woodbridge, with Christmas fair at Woodbridge, and we took delivery of our Christmas tree day before yesterday, so that's sitting in water in the garage. The bottom has been sawn off in readiness, so at any point this week, I think maybe in the next couple of days that'll be up. So all good stuff. We're all getting prepared.
There's some imagery for folks on Dave in a lumberjack shirt, sawing the bottom off a Christmas tree, and then all very action man-y. Yeah, that's what we want.
It was out. The saw was out.
There we go. Yeah, well, Christmas doesn't start in this house until next midweek. As in next week in the midweek. Yeah, words. So I'll do our best for you, Seb. I mean, there's a few bits and pieces before we get into the football we can talk about. Happy birthday to Steve Whitten. I think it's obligatory that we have to.
I think so.
Say that.
Nod to Steve.
If you subscribe to my own YouTube channel, not a lot of people know that I've got one, but I actually did a compilation for Craig's birthday a few years ago. Steve Whitten's best goals, and what it is actually is a compilation of his best non-goal celebrations. So do get out and enjoy that. I've never seen someone score a goal and care so less about it. So happy
perhaps,
birthday.
Do you know what would be good? Perhaps if you did a compilation of Craig's goal celebrations for Steve Whitten's birthday. I wonder what that would look like.
Compilation of Craig's scrapbooks of Steve Whitten. So happy birthday to him. And before we need to mention our friends at the Greyhound. We were there pre-match, weren't we, DD, on Friday night. Two bits that I want to call out. One is that we met the guy who single-handedly built the new bit of the A14.
Oh, yeah.
Luke's past Huntington.
Yeah, it was him.
He came and said hello. Didn't say his name, and we were too rude to ask for it, but it was quite a fleeting visit. So
how did you find out that information then?
He volunteered it. He bricked up the bridge. He laid all the tarmac. He's unbelievable. But good lad. But he didn't leave us his name. A real top lad. He came over.
Oh, fair play.
He just came over and said hello. So
he's literally saved me hours of travel time. So fair play. I'll buy him a pint next time.
I think seemingly he was during construction of same. He was making the commute. I assume from Ipswich to Cambridge. So when the pod was keeping him going, I think that's what he was inferring there. So a top lad. Yeah.
I think because we've talked about it a few times. I think pretty much all the three of us feel like the most travel-oriented people. Maybe Joe's mentioned it as well. So thank you to you, whoever you are. Tell us your name next time, and we'll give you a proper shout out. But I thought Seb, you'd enjoy that one.
From now on, obviously known as A14.
Yeah, exactly. That's his name. Well, and the second bit that we need to mention. So, Dave, you had a sense of foreboding about the game, didn't you? And I was trying to go, come on, Fleetwood.
Shouted me down, didn't you? Shouted me down. There was all sorts of.
The chat we had on the pre-match was that Fleetwood weren't going to park the bus, which they really didn't.
No.
But do you want to divulge any of your thinking? There?
I just looked at their record, really. Difficult to beat. And I think they only won 2 games, but I think they're drawn 5. It's probably covered on the pre-match show. So quite difficult to beat away from home. I must admit, I didn't take notice of who they played up to date away from home, but I just thought it'd be difficult. Scott Brown, manager, bit of a nuggety Scottish midfield player, and I think that's what you saw with them. But, the narrative of the game, for once, it wasn't well, we'll get into the narrative of the game, but which makes it all doubly disappointing, really, as there was 94 minutes between both goals, which was kind of frustrating. But yeah, I just had that, as you said on the Telegram, a sense of foreboding, maybe.
DD's spidey senses were tingling. So, but let's have a look at the lineups. Probably, Seb, the strongest lineup we could pick, I guess.
Yeah, it picks itself these days, doesn't it? I guess the only debate would have been either Carl Edwards or Jackson in that kind of left-sided role. I know you and Joe were debating that on the pre-match, but Edwards got the nod. I think he deserved it based on the last few weeks. You know, every time he plays, he's looked okay, and he tends to create stuff, and that was no surprise. He came in, and the rest of it at the moment picks itself. I guess the bench was a bit of a surprise, which we might come on to later. We've got a couple of questions about that later on, maybe. But the starting 11, it is what it is these days, and I think it will probably be that for the next 5-6 weeks in reality, won't it? Until we can either get some bodies back from the medical room or get some players in January.
The question marks, and Kieran McKenna was being deliberately cryptic, was about the fitness of Dynasty and Lapo. So clearly a positive, Seb, that they were fit and ready to go.
Yeah, it sounded like they just missed Buxton as a precaution, didn't they? I don't think there's any real doubt there. And great to see Greg Lee back on the bench as well. We had the bad news, obviously, in the before the Buxton game, that he'd felt something in his groin near where the compound fracture happened or whatever it was. And I kind of assumed he might be out of the picture for a little while, as is Kamara, I assume. But great to see him on the bench. That was a bit of a welcome, timely boost.
And Dave, we do have a question about this, so we're not going too much detail on it, but we obviously were impressed with a lot of the youngsters against Buxton, and as Seb alluded to there, none of them made the bench, but I guess it's a strong senior bench, maybe more so than we may have expected on Thursday or Friday.
A lot of experience on the bench there, absolutely. And as Seb quite rightly said, perhaps a little bit of a surprise to see Greg Lee back on the bench so quickly after being sort of talked down, as it were, by the manager prior to the Buxton game. So yeah, very experienced bench. Can I just go back to the Fleetwood team? Is that number 20 got the Christian name of Promise? Yes, he has.
Yeah,
that's
Promise.
Incredible.
Okay, Omacheri.
Like that, Promise. That's pretty. Sounds like a boxer's name, doesn't it? That one, or a wrestler, or something like that, doesn't it? And perhaps quite apt for some of their players as a game will run. But there you go.
Yeah, worth mentioning for those who are watching on video. This is the SofaScore representation of the lineup, and I think Fleetwood was a back four rather than his back three, with ex-Town Josh Earl on the left.
Ooh.
And Sean Rooney, who has managed to evade a red card through voodoo or some kind of Jedi mind tricks. I don't know how he stayed on the pitch for the whole game. I don't know, but he was on the right. And then Toto Enciala, Dave. You can still find him, who was pretty good, actually, wasn't he?
Totes was solid, mate. And as we'll get to it, I hate to say it, but almost pretty much an assist for the last goal.
Yeah, I thought.
And normally you'd think, if you saw Toto Enciala would assist, you'd think, oh, that's a corner. He's just flicked it on at the near post. This was a sweeping, curving ball from bloody right to left to right, for goodness sake, like a 30-yard pass. But yeah, you go.
He was quite calm on the ball, wasn't he? And
we did.
There was a smattering of boos, which I don't really appreciate.
Yeah, that came through on the iFile, and I didn't get that one at all. Yeah, it was the same, to be fair, when we went away to them in March. He got absolute pelters. Maybe it's because it was so soon after his departure, but yeah, that was a really strange one.
That one career, we just didn't isolate him at all on the night, did we?
No, I don't think we put him under a huge amount of pressure. And given we know that he struggled with getting passes out, and certainly with running towards goal with the ball over the top and all that kind of stuff.
Certainly second half we didn't. I think the press was pretty good first half, but second half it was pretty non-existent, wasn't it?
Well, let's start with the positives, shall we? Because David, yet again, it's an early start for us. Yet again, it's Wolford, and yet again, it's a set piece. Talk us through the opening goal.
Yeah. A bit scrappy, really, wasn't it? I mean, Davis takes a good set piece, doesn't he? Puts it in a decent area. First, I thought it was Ladapo who had it first, but sort of, I think it's Chaplin hits a sort of scuff, reasonable connection, but a bit scuffy sort of volley. Then it hits Ladapo. Keeper makes quite a good save low down, but for once, not for once, because Wolford was there against Cheltenham, wasn't he? Pretty much the same position. He was just there at the back post. I think you're right. We said before, to stab it over the line. I think you'd say it was a stab more than a shot, that one. But 2 minutes in, great start, just what you want. Here we go. I know people on our table in the Greyhound, some were forecasting 4-1 and things like that, and I thought, I'm going to eat humble pie here. Richard's going to really eat humble, but
some gravy and mushy peas, yeah,
exactly. But great start. off we go.
It was, and it was one of these ones, guys, where I don't know how often a season this happens to you. Maybe 2 or 3 times for me. I thought Wolfenham might have been offside. I had kind of images of that. Which game was it? It might have been Portsmouth last season, the disallowed goal with the offside. I thought Wolfenham might have strayed offside and they were going to disallow it. So you can't get into a goal celebration having not joined it from the start, kind of thing. It's like, that was sport.
Imagine how we feel when we get to the Premier and VAR. How will we cope with that? I just don't know.
Well, you get kind of a double bubble, don't you? But the second one's a little bit not as emotional. But that's 6 assists now, Seb, with a joint highest set piece goal scorers in the league as well.
Wow.
We talked about it on the pod before, but great credit in terms of McKenna and the coaching team identifying a deficiency last season, even talking about it, and now look at now it's a key part of our armory, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, and it's what you need sometimes. I was at Accrington away. We were kind of huffing and puffing and couldn't get anything, and it was a set piece in the, I think, 75th odd minute, and Chaplin slams the ball home. And if you've got that in your locker, so to speak, in your armory, then you've always got a chance on the days when things aren't really working. And it's great to see they've clearly worked on it so much, because I know Davis is now taking the corners because Evans is out, so it's a great delivery from him. So we have signed a player to bring it in, but the movement in the box seems a lot better, and no side has scored more or something, or created more shooting opportunities from corners than us. And it's great to see, isn't it? They've clearly been working on things all summer long. McKenna came out last year, I think it was around the time of the Rotherham game, about April, and he said you will not get promoted unless you score, like, was it 10-15% of your goals from set pieces? And at that point I think we'd scored 1 all season, and it's great to see they've clearly been working on it, and we're now reaping the benefits. And obviously it's a real benefit to have on the days when things aren't going that well. You've always got a chance, whereas before we had so many years where the corner, we wouldn't beat the first man, would it, time after time? And now it's a really useful addition to our art. Jason, Andre Dezel, and now it's a really useful kind of the thing in our armory, and it's serving us really well on the days when things don't quite go to plan.
And goals from defenders as well, Dave, is something that we've bemoaned for a while, and you'd expect Wolfenham to be getting headers, but it's side foot volleys and controlled tap-ins, isn't it?
Yeah, no, and it's good movement. It's no, as Seb said, it's no fluke. It's just good movement and good preparation. Yeah.
In terms of the rest of that first half, Dave, how it played out, I mean, there are chances here. We, all of us in the North Stand, we're kind of going, right, we've got the first early doors, let's get a second, and then it's your kind of 3-4-0 as you were talking about before. And there are chances there, but they're largely speculative efforts, aren't they?
He looked like he made a really, as up your end, I mean, he looked like, was that a really good save from the Dat? But it looked like a really good save. Was it a bit of a Hollywood one? I mean, it looked a really good save.
Yeah, bit of both, if I may.
You'd expected him to have made it if that's what you're saying. Good connection.
Chaplin one was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Corner of the area.
Oh yeah. He beat that away. But I mean, I thought we played pretty well first half. Sort of came off. Yeah, a bit disappointed that you don't add to such an early goal. But I thought we were pretty much we looked at the stats prior to the show. Pretty dominant. And I think they did have a couple though. I think Morton got through, Morton got through, and Walter made a good save, but. Other than that, I thought we were well in control. Certainly in midfield, much more in control. Humphreys and Morsey were linking really well together. Davis and Edwards, to a degree, in the first half, are doing okay. So, you just thought, okay, come out second half, same positive on the front foot, get the second goal, close the game out, but didn't.
What was your take on referee Sam Purkis, his second ITFC game of the season, the first being Cole U in the League Cup, although I can't remember him getting a huge amount of decisions wrong. But for me, Rooney's booked 5 minutes, we've mentioned it already, and then basically is in his ear moaning. He looked miserable all game, Rooney. I don't know if that's how he plays.
Oh, he was a right old, because he's playing wide, really wide right, at first half, really, chalk on the old proverbial. But I mean, the Burns tackle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this. So 21.
The hell? I looked at absolute beautiful tackle. So I mean, he's up and he's got the ball away, and it almost seems a delay. And the ref, obviously the player's down, sort of writhing a bit, and the ref and then to book him as well, just. Whether that was, I don't know, whether he said something after that, Burns, I don't know, but that looked extremely harsh, and a lot of people said over that side, it just wasn't a free kick.
Yeah, it didn't look like one from my excellent vantage point in the back of the North Stand.
And that was also the move that irked people when the
divulge.
Well, this was one where so Burns makes this tackle, which looked the perfect. I mean, it was on the wrong side of me, but people I know that was on the Cobbold side said, "No, perfectly good tackle." Yeah, obviously wet pitch, his momentum sort of did follow through a bit, but he won the ball. And then to further irk, so that was bad enough. And then obviously he was booked, so that really irked people. And then to cap it all, the guy that got taken out by the tank, and I'm not sure who it was. I can't recall who it was. Then basically gets up, and people are saying, "Well, go off the other side of the pitch, go off." And of course, he no one takes any notice. Linesman, they're balling at the linesman, and he just saunters. The guy saunters across and takes his position ready for the free kick. And I did say at the time, I said, I think there might be a rule that if it's a foul and the opposition player is cautioned, then I think there's no advantage. I think you're allowed to stay on the pitch. And got shouted down, but good old Sean in the Telegraph and Telegram group put that right. I think Friday evening when he said no. In fact, that is the rule. If a player is cautioned, an offence is committed, a foul is committed, the opposition player is cautioned, then you are allowed to stay on the pitch. Which, when you think about it, does kind of make sense.
Yeah, but none of us knew that, and I
didn't know it. I just assumed. Thinking about it, I thought, well, maybe that is. I didn't know it until Sean confirmed. Yeah, so that got people very excited.
Yes, I was one of those people, Dave. It wasn't a good night for me.
I could hear you, Rich.
Yeah, it was. I was definitely supercharged with Ghost Ship, and there was one moment in the second half.
To be fair, you were in the ground since 3:30. To be fair,
so. if my boss is listening.
Sorry. Oh no, sorry, 5 o'clock.
I know that they all listen. I love it.
Sorry, that was a joke, Rich bosses. It was 5 o'clock.
But there was a moment in the second half where it went really quiet. The referee it was coming towards the North Stand, and it was one of those moments where it's all gone quiet. And
did you give it some?
Get control of the game, referee! I felt really good for it, but no one really went, yeah.
And the lino in front of us got just terrible pelters all game, and anyway, it was to get worse second. It was to get worse second half. I mean, he didn't cover himself with particular glory first half, but I think as the game wore on, he was to get worse. I think.
Talk to us about the second half, then, Seb, because there's an early chance for Chaplin, and as David said, we kind of feel like we haven't got the second goal, but we are largely in control. We'll look through the stats and do a comparison between first and second half. But is it a case of, I've got notes here about there's kind of Morsey versus Vela. There's a lot of handbags, a lot of slide tackles. Was it Fleetwood's game plan, do you think, to start getting in our faces and then take control?
I feel us break the momentum, stick it up, so to put it. It's what we were kind of expecting a bit from what you and Joe discussed on the pre-match show. The likes of Vela, Batty came on, he loves a tackle, Vela loves a tackle, Worthington loves a tackle in the middle of the park, and they just kind of reduced the game almost to their kind of level and stopped getting it wasn't a spectacle in the second half at all. And it became a kind of like Dave says, an absolute scrap, and we just got deeper and deeper. And we were doing strange things as well. I remember, I think it might be in first half, Burgess does like a back heel down near the byline, and almost creates a chance. Luckily, the guy falls over. Burns does a back heel in the second half that they pick up on straight away. And that second half, we just dropped deeper and deeper. The game was kind of devoid of all quality because they were kind of, I guess it was their game plan, get through to half time if you can. They probably were quite happy after scoring after 2-3 minutes. They were probably quite happy to go into half time only one down, given what you would expect to happen for the rest of the 45 minutes. And I guess their game plan was just reduce the game, make it as difficult as possible, make it as nasty as possible. And it only takes 1 minute, to score. It only takes one chance for us to get a goal if we can create something. But it certainly wasn't a spectacle in that second half, and we just didn't create anything, and we couldn't get out at all. And we made a few subs, but I thought they were pretty ineffectual, to be fair. Jackson obviously comes on. Gregley, I thought did okay, but Jackson came on, and the big one I thought when Hadmi came on for Ladapo, we seemed to lose everything up front from holding the ball up, pressing kind of point of view, and that just led to us falling deeper and deeper towards our own half.
From my reflection, partway through the second half, was that Fleetwood had possession, but it was largely side to side. It was kind of like the possession that we used to have under Lambert
ball
and Cook, where you weren't going anywhere. There's not a huge amount of work for Walton to do, and I just wonder whether there was a strategic choice there. There's an element of Fleetwood obviously aggressively pressing us, the referee not necessarily enforcing it. A lot of fouls were let go, a lot of fouls that should have been yellows were not yellows, and I wonder whether we just kind of sat back a little bit, knowing that it was going to take something special or freakish to to beat us, which is kind of how it played out. Because even when Fleetwood had the ball, the two best chances of the second half, one's Chapman we've talked about, this chance in 77 for Humphreys right in the middle of the goal, Dave, if you recall that one.
Yeah.
Crossed by Danassian. And
yeah, to be fair, I think he's almost one of those ones. He's a little bit unsighted, and it gets a deflection to him. And he's not very far out though, Rich. He's probably about 6, 7, 8 yards out. And I think I saw his interview afterwards. He said he just came to him quickly, and it just, he just didn't get a foot on it. Just hit his studs and just didn't get. And I thought, that was a sort of cross flash across the box. It was so close. You think, here we go, and oh shit, no, it's not. And then you sort of begin to think, will we get another chance as good as that? I don't think we did. I don't think we barely got in their box after that, to be perfectly honest. And as I said before, I think they're sometimes these teams reflect their coaches, and I thought that display probably did reflect Scott. As I said, from my memory to Scott Brown playing for Celtic, he was that sort of roll your sleeves up, get stuck in type of real nuggety midfield play, and I think that probably resembled that, and he would have been well they're obviously well happy, but and I thought we got away with it. The corner, I think that was half cleared and hooked back in, and the pantomime villain, who I don't mind, Joe Gunn, I don't mind a player that gives it back a bit, fair enough, I don't mind that. And you think you survive, it's a brilliant clearance off the right in front of you by Davis. Think, okay, that may be their one big chance, and not we've got away with it, because they had a lot of the ball, as you said, but they weren't really threatening as such. Right. But yeah, like I said, what really frustrated me was Jackson. That it must have been about 93rd, maybe even the 94th minute, when he gets the ball. He does quite well initially, and he's a beeline. A beeline, does the right thing, makes a beeline, and then just so easily gets dispossessed. And then, all right, it's not the phase, but 2 phases later, well, we know what happens, and it's. You think surely you can get a throw, you can get a goal, even kick it out for a throw, and just get the team up the pitch. But just to get, there's only one incident, but just to get dispossessed so easily was annoying.
Seb, talk us into the goal? We mentioned the chance for Davis. So going back to my point before, that was Fleetwood's only real effort on goal or clear-cut chance, was that clearance off the line by Davis. So has McKenna's game plan worked? I know we'll talk about, we've got questions about our last 10 minutes coming up, but it feels like it works. And then, the subs, I accept your point. Maybe the shape isn't necessarily right. I think Lee, as you say, does a lot of heavy lifting at the back, which is good, but it's not a huge amount you can legislate for this goal, can you?
It's a freak, isn't it? No, it's a complete freak. You've got this shows how deep we were. You've got Toto NCR obviously picks the ball up. He must be 10 yards in our half, completely unopposed. No one's around him at all. He pings the ball out to Hayes on the left side. Now, I think Jackson should have maybe stood him up and showed him down the line a little bit, but he kind of lets him cut inside relatively easily, and then he's on his left foot. And
very, very briefly before you ruin our weekend, like it. Jackson isn't tight to Hayes either, so you're right. There's the first instance, which is right, well, what are you going to cause him to do? And he shows him in, and then he backs off as well, which I think is just as bad, isn't it?
So he's I assume for that position he thinks he's going to cross it into the far post, but obviously it's a freak, isn't it? It's a complete freak goal. It's a bit like the Edwards one against Cambridge. He has the shot, and then it's 2 freaks, isn't it? It hits Burgess deflects it in off the post. Walton's got no chance, and everyone is absolutely dumbstruck. It's a freak goal, and I guess when you don't when you don't push on after the first goal, you are always susceptible to that. But it's a horrible goal to concede. On the iFollow, it wasn't clear that it had gone in at first. I'll be honest. I thought the ball somehow had worked its way around the back of the net, and then suddenly a general kind of I can't believe that descends on Portman Road. And it's a freak goal. It's very unlucky. If it doesn't hit Burgess, Walton hopefully comes out and claims it, or it just goes out of play at the back post. It's the hitting Burgess that changes it. Hitting off the post, Walton's got no chance, and we are all absolutely shell-shocked.
A lot of angry exclamations around me in the North Stand lower as people left. But that's 90+6, isn't it, when that goes in? Literally the last knockings of the game. Anyone the wiser as to why Josh Earl was sent off?
It was gestures to the crowd, wasn't it? Apparently, it was gestures to the North, and it was the W sign. I think was the.
How he wasn't? Was he booked for butchering Chaplin in half? Was he?
No,
he
never
wasn't,
got.
was
He
he? I
didn't get a
mean,
card for that.
how on earth he stayed on the pitch? Him and Rooney, to be fair, how they stayed on the pitch, I do not know. Vela, I've always liked Josh Vela. I know he's had his injury problems in the past. I've always liked him as a player. And he showed his physical side in there. I thought on he certainly gave Morsey a scrap on certainly second half on Friday, but. Surely our luck's got. I mean, I know you say luck evens out. But if you think of the last home league match, Camera last minute inside of the post stays out. You know, Friday hits Burgess, loops up inside of the post. I mean, are we cursed? I don't know.
Would you rather have your luck the first half of the season or the second half of the season? No, it's kind of as the hopeful. I'm not hopeful. Seb will attest to this. That's the way I'm thinking about it. Because the luck is definitely not with us for the rest of this game, Seb. Because you go up the other end and
I think it's a stonewaller. Yeah, Rooney on Jackson. You know, Jackson. I think is there a flick on or a long ball, and Jackson suddenly
someone gets up really well. I think. Yeah, maybe Burgess gets up and heads at the back.
Maybe or Hadmer. Yeah, I'm not sure who it was. But then Jackson's got it, and I think it's Rooney that goes in, and it looks an absolute stonewall. There was no replay on the time because it was literally the last kick of the game. But Napper's the Fleetwood Town video blog guy's done one with a view from the away fans in the Cobbold, and it's so blatant. He's just completely taken out and bundled over, and it's one of the most blatant penalties you'll see. And yet again, either a combination of bad luck or crap officials at this level has gone against us. And yeah, it was a stonewaller. It was a penalty. Obviously, there's no guarantee we would have scored it, but you know, we're just not getting these breaks, are we, at the moment? And well, I think was it Craig put in the Telegram group after the game that if the luck does even itself out across the season, the second half will be amazing for us because almost every game we're going to be owed something, aren't we? And it's a stonewall penalty. It's really obvious, but that's, I guess, what you come to expect from the standard of officiating on the night.
I just want to, obviously, it's really easy for us to sit here and bat and slag off a referee's performance, but in this situation, and McKenna was really cute about it in his interview, as you expect from someone whose class is McKenna, alludes to the referee's performance, but then focuses on us and focuses on them, which is quite right. But your job as an official presumably is to make decisions. I know we kind of say that a good referee is one who's not seen or heard of and just lets the game flow, but surely your job is to look out for those moments. So I just don't. Surely it's easier. Surely the human nature in you, if your job is to call decisions, is to give it, not to deny it, because he's kind of stooping low, isn't he? Like he's doing the referee pose to look at the position. I'm wondering what he's thinking he's seen.
I don't know,
not award it, because it's easier to give it,
move.
Isn't it?
Yeah, the ball doesn't move, so there's no chance the player's won the ball. Yeah, there's no chance. It's a complete takeout. So I can't see what he sees that he thinks it couldn't possibly be a foul. I mean, the only thing I can assume he's thinking that Jackson's gone down too easily, in which case, in theory, he should book him for diving. In theory, it's bizarre. Maybe
that was what I was referring to. A couple of moves before, where he just assumes Jackson is so easily possessed that it couldn't be a penalty. Sort of thing. But it looked, and to be fair, the guy, is it Napper's the Fleetwood blogger's a great lad, really good, and he called it. Yeah, fair enough. He's just got a point, so I suppose you can say that. If he hadn't got I don't know, he wouldn't comment, but he called it straight away and said that was a penalty because he's got the view there. So again, another decision, but who's to say Jackson wouldn't have got up, taken the penalty, hit the inside of the post, hit the goalkeeper, and it had gone wide or something. But look, it was. Another 2 points that unfortunately have slipped away, further compounded perhaps by the other result on the night to a degree, I suppose.
Yeah, well, let's come to that in a second. We must say congrats to Nappers, who's got 10,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Great, really brilliant
this weekend.
Really
and we
also
need to. They got a good round of applause from Paul Monroe, didn't they? The 66 official. What Stephen Foster announced as 66. We're not necessarily sure it's exactly that number. Who made the trip down? That's a slog, isn't it, Seb? You know about that. They would have had to use the new bit of the A14.
The A14. Yeah, I was going to say they're thankful to the man in the Greyhound.
15 minutes. So.
Yeah, absolutely thankful for that man in the Greyhound for the engineering work that saves them some time. No, on a Friday night, that's a hell of a trek, isn't it? Yeah, you're talking probably five and a half hours or so. So fair play to them. Yeah, that's really, really impressive.
If only they'd known about the Christmas fair in Woodbridge, they could have made a whole weekend of it.
Do you know how? If only they'd have known that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the Felixstowe Christmas light switch on yesterday evening as well. They could have made a whole proper weekend. Fleetwood, forget Blackpool. I mean, Felixstowe light switch on, Woodbridge Christmas fair. What a weekend.
There you go. Prematch of the Greyhound as well. God, we've got
Irish sausage roll at Honey and Harvey.
Oh.
Jobs are good.
Perfect. Going down a Snape, maybe. Oh, what?
Oh.
There's a week. This is
Sorry,
like
have we spoken to the East Anglian Suffolk Tourist Board?
This is better than Sean Connery to Legoland and a lamb lunch afterwards. Right, let's move it on, guys. Back to the football. Back to the misery. Because I've got a question for you both. I'll come to you both on this one, but let me lay the scene for you. The penalty is awarded in a multi-universe, in a different time stream or what have you. We score that penalty, we win 2-1 the last kick of the game. Do we deserve that victory? And let me give you some stats to help you answer the question. Here's the attacking momentum graph that I love. And for those who are listening on the podcast, the Ipswich blocks essentially run out a third of the way through the second half, and then largely it's not massive blocks for Fleetwood, but largely the attacking momentum is with Fleetwood second half. Then we've got the stats. Here's our stats for the first half: 56% possession, 8 shots, 5 on target, 2 off target. Only 3 for Fleetwood, 1 on target, 1 off target, and 1 block.
Big chance.
But then look at the second half, 63% possession for Fleetwood. Not too many chances, as we said, 4 each. They've got 2 on target. But 2 big chances to Ipswich. There you go. Seb, if that penalty is given and scored, do we deserve it, or is it?
I don't think so. I think it's one where you get out of jail if we win that game. I thought on the second half performance we didn't deserve it because we never got going, did we? I don't know if it's tiredness, if it was, like you say, a decision to sit back and let them pass the ball around relatively unthreateningly because they weren't creating anything. I'm not sure, but I think if that penalty is given and we win the game, we think to ourselves, we've got one there because we just didn't turn up in that second half whatsoever. And Fleetwood, I think they deserve to get something from the game. As frustrating as that is, it took a freak goal to get it, but based on the second half, especially with those possession stats, I mean, that's almost unheard of. To come to Portman Road and finish a half with 63% possession is crazy. We just don't see those numbers anymore since McKenna took over. So, it's one of those where they deserve something. Okay, it took a freak to get it. It's gutting for us, but I don't think even the most diehard Town fan with their hand on their heart can say we deserve 3 points from that match, personally.
Well, let's ask a Town fan with the blue tinted spectacles, Dave. No, well, you didn't, did you? You go into the game, so yeah. What are you saying on this one?
No, I think Seb's right. I think overall they did a job on the set. We just got very, very deep, and we could all see it, couldn't we? It was a bit odd, really. And I know there's a question coming up about the bench and everything else. So I don't, as we alluded to earlier, I don't think our substitutions made any effect at all. Yeah, Lee was obviously solid enough because that's what he does, but I think the other two had no effect. Worryingly, had no effect at all. In fact, I think certainly made us worse. And certainly, as Seb said, with the possession up top, it had me just, not sure. Just wasn't getting control of the ball, wasn't holding anything up, ball wasn't sticking to him at all. So, I think overall, absolutely gutted because, we all heard the chants from the Bobby Robson stand, after what was happening in Devon.
That's who to blame, by the way.
We
hate
say
these chants.
around us. We did say around us. Oh, hang on a minute, it's only 1-0. So gutted, but I think overall you didn't have too many complaints, really.
No.
But if I put my positive hat on, also you always say on the pre-match show that I'm the positive one. Obviously, we are now a point closer to the top of the league. We have not lost ground on Sheffield Wednesday. So, from an overall league position, I know it's frustrating. I know it's annoying. But overall, we've closed a bit of ground on the top. We haven't lost anything to the team below. Right. And I know we've got some big games coming up, but we've got a couple of big away games where we tend to be more comfortable and our XG is so much higher. I'm pretty confident going to Wickham and Portsmouth. Although they're tough games, I'm pretty confident given how good we are away from home that they won't be, disasters or anything. So overall, in the grand scheme of things, whilst I know it's incredibly frustrating and annoying, we are slightly better off than we were at kick-off on Friday night.
Seb's right. And I think psychologically, we could be sitting here this morning third. Sheffield Wednesday nick a goal at Derby. we're sitting here third, and we'll you know, I know it's only a point here and there, but yeah, from a psychological point of view, yeah, we made ground, didn't lose any to Sheffield Wednesday. So, it was a great night. I suddenly feel all pumped up and lovely again, all fluffy. Brilliant.
There you go. I love how we've been on a journey together today, haven't we? Blimey.
We have absolutely.
You're still sticking with us.
Exorcised Friday
well
night.
Done, Seb. Seb can find it. Well done, Seb. That's why he's on the podcast. Lovely stuff.
There you go. Brilliant.
I don't want to drag you back into some of the negative, but let's do. We've asked the questions for Telegram. We're obviously not live this week, so we can't dip into the chat. So we asked our Telegram group to give us some questions. Really fascinating one here from Chris, and I'll have a think about this and maybe answer it myself. Chris Robinson, if you could choose just one of the current injured players to come off the bench for the last 20 against Fleetwood, who would it have been and why? Seb, we'll start with you.
Aluko, for me, a player that will keep the ball, has excellent close control, can make decisions when to, play insightful passes, or can just put his foot on it and take some sting out of the game. That experience, I think we lack, when we're kind of, getting under the cosh a little bit, which I know we weren't, but from a possession point of view, we were. So for me, Aluko coming on, putting his foot on the ball with that experience, that nous, and that kind of, taking the sting out of games and running the clock down nicely would have been ideal. I'll tell you what, if he'd have been in the left-hand corner in front of the Fleetwood fans in the 93rd minute like Jackson was, he wouldn't have lost the ball so easily. He'd have, kept it and probably won a throw in or a corner or done something. I think we've really missed him for the last. But yeah, I think we've really missed him for the last kind of 3-4 months to see games out. Making
good progress by the sounds of it, which is positive as well.
Hopefully, yeah, back on the grass, isn't he? So hopefully,
back on the grass.
Sorry, there it is. Tick. Yeah, did you see Dave's landline to ring now? And we can, get a full bingo.
Well, I'm a bit surprised.
We need some bodies as well, Seb. That's what.
Yeah, some bodies are getting back onto the grass. So hopefully he'll be back in time for maybe on the bench for Peterborough. I don't know what the under 21, under 23 situation is if he can get some game time. But hopefully for those Christmas games, he'll be an option to us again. I think he's been a big miss.
Dave, who's your pick?
Yeah, I mean, I just to say something different, I totally agree with Seb there. But just to say something different, I'd say, on the second half, would say 20 minutes to go, and this is no reflection on Humphreys because I thought he was superb first half, but I think just for physicality, Lee Evans probably just for physicality in there, and I know up until he got injured, I think he had one of the highest turnovers in the division, I think, as well, interception turnover point of view. So I think I totally agree with Seb, with Mr. Luco. Countless, I think of games he has Sheffield Wednesday away. Well, we can say them all, can't we? Charlton, just go through them. And you like to think that, he's someone who can put his foot on the ball and just take the sting out of the game. But yeah, I thought as an alternative to that, I'd say Harness, maybe not, but Evans, I think, just for the physicality alongside Morsey in midfield there, and for putting his foot on the ball and picking passes and stuff. And that's no reflection on Humphreys, I thought was superb first half, but I think a little bit bullied out of it, not surprisingly, second half, as perhaps we all were to a degree, even Morsey to a degree second half.
Yeah, the good thing about Evans is, just to jump in, is that he has that in him as well for that kind of, he can leave one on in the tackle.
I know he can. No, exactly.
When you're getting, Vela, snapping in at Humphreys and stuff, then Evans wouldn't probably give a little bit more back than Humphreys would. Again, not a reflection of Humphreys at all. It's not his game. He's been
brilliant.
Yeah, it's just not his game, and maybe Evans does that a couple of times. And suddenly, those challenges from the Fleetwood midfield back off a little bit.
And not being funny, I'm sure probably Brown looked at that at half time and pinpointed that almost. Absolutely did.
Just on Scott Brown, I didn't recognise him at full time because he suddenly got
he's got full head of hair, or has he got a hat on? I didn't quite see what was going on. I
need to have a chat with his stylist, don't I? I don't know what he's doing there. There's some multivitamins.
I think might be a bit of weave going on there, Rich.
But my logic is exactly the same as Dave's. Though, see, I would have brought on Don Ball. Only because
Ball, yeah.
Oh, of course, yeah. I forgot about him.
Oh my God, forgot Don Ball.
Yeah, I was just thinking he'd be more up for a scrap.
Even more suited than forgot him.
Completely forgot about him.
Yeah.
There you go. So host has been able to contribute. Yay! Tony Rand's question really dovetails quite neatly with that, Dave. We got beaten up. I think he means to say we got beaten up a bit in the centre last night. And won virtually nothing in the air in the middle of the pitch. There you go. Should we be looking for someone in January that has a bigger physical presence who can fulfill that role? And also maybe talk about with Morsey having to maybe protect Humphreys a little bit, whether that stifles Morsey. I thought Morsey was probably one of our better players, not that anyone really stood out, but is there something about that we need someone more physical to give Morsey more rain?
And we looked at him, didn't we? We looked at him and perhaps supposedly bid for him a couple of seasons ago. Someone in that Matt Crooks type role, who's big, strong unit. I think you're probably right there. Yeah. But Evans coming back, and again, it's great. It probably would be harsh on Humphreys, but Evans coming back would be and you assume he's much further along. Well, ball's out for the season, so we understand. I'm not quite sure how far Evans is away, but I think he'll make a difference. He'll make a difference in there, I think. But yeah, if he's not ready, if it is going to be, you're looking at, I don't know, February, March time, then yeah, wouldn't surprise me if he brought some more physicality in there.
I would humbly offer up George Dobson at Charlton.
Yeah.
There you go. If that kind of feels player that fits that mold.
Yeah, that very kind briefly, of role, Matt. Yeah.
Very briefly, Dave, we need to talk about Humphreys as well from a more positive perspective as well, because I mean, we're not slagging him off at all by any means.
No, we're not.
But in terms of his ability, I really love. He does maybe 4 or 5 of these disguised kind of no-look passes, but they're often forward and through the lines. We've not really got anyone else like that, have we, who can spot a pass like that?
It's kind of
unlock defenses.
It's kind of the antithesis of Andre Dezelle, isn't it? Because maybe it's perhaps the overall quality of the team when Dezelle was doing it, but Dezelle was almost play these reverse or almost non-look passes, and perhaps we could see if, that's a good pass, isn't it? But there's no one there. But yeah, he always seems to find a player as well, which is, he's a talent. You can see that obviously Kieran Dyer waxing lyrical about him over, certainly towards his end of time at a period at the club and stuff. You can see that now he's going to be a class player, absolute class player. Doesn't look it again, doesn't sort of fairly slight and stuff, but yeah, he was. I think he was. Perhaps battled out of it and bullied out of it a little bit second half, but he can look after himself. There's a few times, certainly first half, he's not shy of a tackle, but yeah, he's a find, certainly is a find, and yeah, I think he'll just hopefully flourish with us. In the championship, which would probably even suit him better.
Yeah, great shout. Seb, this is a question that's probably on a lot of people's minds after Friday, but certainly Charlton. From Jack Saunders, do we have a last 10 problem? We've never won a game in the last 10 under Kieran McKenna. We need to say congratulations for 50 matches in charge for Kieran McKenna as well. Stats done a really good analysis of his first 50 games and how that stacks up against other Ipswich managers. So recommend checking that up. But yeah, we've given up some points of late. Just to lob that into the mix for you as some counterbalance, Dan Connors, who's kind of our resident statistical guru in the Telegram group, we're the only team to have a positive goal difference for every 15-minute segment of the matches we played this season of teams in League One. But have we got a problem with particularly turning draws into wins in the last 10? But we have given up a lot of goals, haven't we? Are we getting a bit worried about nothing?
Yeah, we have, I guess, haven't we? I guess, the positive is the stats from Dan saying our goal difference every 50 minutes is positive, but we are seeing it, aren't we, with these late goals we concede. I don't know, is it fit? It can't be fitness, because they're so, they're probably fitter than they've ever been. Maybe it's the fact we can't bring bodies off the bench and we can't rotate as we maybe want to at the moment, so you're kind of suffering a little bit with people playing too many games in quick succession. I mean, Morsey, for example, probably would never have played those two, the Pizza Cup and the FA Cup game. Yeah, he would have sat out definitely and rested a little bit. So maybe it's something to do with the personnel we have available at the moment. Is it a psychological thing? Is it a mentality thing? I'm not sure. I just think it's a little bit of a blip at the moment. I can't, I guess I can't think early in the season this wasn't happening. So I'd like to think it's just a bit of a blip, a bit of a dodgy run of form we're going through. But I have complete faith in McKenna to sort this kind of stuff out. In previous regimes, if this was happening, then I guess that edginess would grow in the crowd and we'd all kind of be expecting it a lot more, because we'd have no faith on the likes of Cook and Lambert to really sort it. I have no doubt that the analysis teams, the performance teams, McKenna will sit down and have a look and try and spot trends, and they will act accordingly if they can spot something.
I think go on, Dave.
Just quickly. I think the John Jules Ladapo rotation worked brilliantly, didn't it? Up until then, he's a miss. He's a big miss.
I was thinking Shrewsbury is an instance where, well, obviously John Jules started in that one, but where we finished strongly. We've kind of we kind of let them have a bit more of the ball because we were 2-0 up and there wasn't a threat, and then scored
and
the
then
goals at the right times, including
bring Ladapo off the bench.
90
Yeah,
minutes and that kind of stuff, didn't we?
Those finishes that we had for the first third of the season just aren't there at the moment, aren't we? You know, we were getting to 60 minutes, weren't we? And bringing on John Jules, Edwards and Jackson, which sides couldn't deal with. So we naturally were able to finish in such a strong position in games. And at the moment, we simply don't have that. You know, we discussed the subs the other night. Jackson, for me, didn't really do enough. Lee, I thought, did okay. But we haven't got those options on the bench to see games out like we had in the first third of the season. It must be contributing to it.
And it's worth noting as well. I mean, Jack's right, and particularly the winning games from that type of situation, but we're generally in front by that point anyway, aren't we, under McKenna? I just wonder whether we're all a little bit fixated, and it's an emotional thing as well. As human beings, we're kind of attuned to it. We've got Charlton and Fleetwood are these games where we're thinking about this last 10 minutes and chucking away leads. Both of these situations, the Fleetwood goal you talked about, Seb, you know, it's avoidable, but ultimately it's a shot that deflects, hits the post and goes in the only position where Walton can't save it. And Charlton, we've got 2 freak goals. You know, admittedly there's mistakes in there as well, but these are situations that just don't crop up routinely. And dare I say, is luck a factor in here as well? I know we don't. I know it's kind of, you know, a bit mumbo jumbo-y, but we have been really unfortunate in certain circumstances to be the wrong side of how things have fallen out, isn't it? Is that a factor?
Yeah, you have to take it into account, don't you? Because that Charlton game was a freak game. I was at the 4-4 against Derby, which was 10, 11 years ago, I think. And it's the kind of game that will come around once every decade or so. So that was a complete freak one. And that goal is a freak goal on Friday night. You know, if it doesn't hit Burgess, then, you know, either goes out of play at the back post, someone wins the header, or what comes and claims it. You know, it's the fact it hits Burgess that makes it unsavable. And there's just no luck going our way at the moment. But hopefully across the season that will start to turn.
Yes, those small margins. I've got to tell you quickly, I don't know if Seb wouldn't, you might have done, Rich. So I got home, just about sort of simmered down, sort of calmed down, switched on the Anglian news. So the Anglian news was on, and this must have been about 20 to 11, quarter to 11 Friday evening. And there's been a game at Portman Road, Ipswich playing Fleetwood. I could have just put my foot through the TV when the Anglian TV said, and Ipswich have gone top of the league tonight. I thought, hang on, what's going on? After a hard-fought 1-0 win over Fleetwood, which puts them, I don't know, a point or whatever, a point ahead of, or 2 points or whatever it was, ahead of Plymouth at the top, and that just further. I just thought, no, please not. This was quarter to 11 on Friday evening on Anglian News. If anyone else saw that, I just couldn't believe it. I thought, you kidding me?
Well, I had the opposite experience, and we've often accused Sky of a pro Norwich anti Ipswich stance, but this headline on the Sky Sports match report was Fleetwood score last gasp winner at Portman Road. Like, how bad was that injury time? I'm pretty certain I left on the whistle when they scored the equaliser. No. What did I miss? So well, there you go. Quality media outlets. That's brilliant. What we want. Let's finish off with these 2 questions. One from Ed. Do we have a slight weakness on the attacking left-hand side? Me and a number of others were saying Edwards, great impact player. Doesn't seem to be as effective from the start. Same could be said of Jackson. You've talked about this, Dave. Do you want to talk a little bit more about
No, I
Edwards?
totally agree. Yeah, he didn't have his great. He was okay first half, but fairly non-existent second half. I thought Davis was good down the left again. I thought very good again, but it didn't quite seem to work as well on Friday evening. And I tend to agree with you again. And it's down to what Seb said. Perhaps the sort of lightness of the squad just at the moment, that perhaps he would be more of an impact player coming off the bench, but with the injury to Harness, etc. Needs must, and he perhaps needed to start on Friday. But I think at this moment he certainly looked good coming off the bench, I think.
Finally, and talking about subs as well, this is the question we've kind of alluded to from Alex. He's kind of querying why Richard Keogh's on the bench as a third sub when he hasn't really featured a huge amount in the first team, and why we didn't pick attacking-minded youth players instead. Seb, what's your take on that? Obviously, we just need to mention, don't know whether Joe mentioned this on pre-match, he might have done, Chihuahua situation off the field is a little bit complex, isn't it?
There's a contract issue, isn't there? Yeah. So I don't know. I guess maybe if he's tied down, he takes that spot on the bench. For me personally, I don't think you need two defenders on the bench, but I guess I can kind of understand why McKenna might want Keogh there, for encouragement and kind of seeing things from he's basically been bought here almost like an extra coach, hasn't he? He's barely going to play. That's clearly the pathway that was sold to him in the summer, that and being closer to home. So I can understand why he might want him there for, shouting things on, giving instructions, seeing things from a defensive point of view. But if you've got a youngster who, by all accounts, according to Joe, loves a shot, has got a great goal scoring record in the under 23s, then for me, they're potentially, if football is about scoring goals, and if you can get that kind of option there on the bench to maybe come off and make a difference when your number 10 start to struggle. I mean, he looked decent against Buxton, and for me, I would have liked to have seen him there, and maybe if Chaplin starts to tire in those last 5 minutes, you kind of throw him on, and you never know, a speculative long ranger or whatever might have made all the difference. But there is a contract issue going on, isn't there? So I guess that has to come into play at some point. It just shows where the squad is, doesn't it? Now the squad is down to the very bare bones. This might be the. Go on, Dave.
Yeah, and also I think following on from that, there was also talk on the Telegram group, which is perhaps not surprising, of the situation perhaps with El Mazzuni potentially in January. Who's obviously having a really, really good season with Orient. I think they're still romping away at the top, aren't they? They were, I think. Who's pretty much been one of their best players all season. Obviously, will be far better, you'd think, for the experience and the potential of. I know in a perfect world we obviously wouldn't want to, but if needs must, there's obviously an option, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like the most obvious, as you say, to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you to the guys in the Telegram group for the questions. As usual, we're back Friday and next Sunday live, so we'll use the chat for that. But if you want to get involved in the Telegram group, we have mentioned it a lot. I'm aware it's kind of the new Blue Monday WhatsApp, which I'm sure people loved us talking about as well. But if you want to get involved in the Telegram group, you can go to bluemonday.itfc.co.uk and sign up there. Free 2-week trial and then a subscription thereafter. But we're really loving it over there, and lots of stuff that you can get involved in there, and lots of different chats, and we do enjoy it. So do get involved in there. If you are listening to this on Sunday as well, one final bit of pluggery. That sounds bad, doesn't it? One final bit of promo. The merch store has got a 15% off and free shipping deal that ends tonight on Sunday. So if you're feeling depressed or happy after England, maybe later on, which is why this is a pre-record, by the way, haven't acknowledged that so far, then head to the merch store and redeem that promo and fill your shopping basket to your heart's content. Let's finish off with the roundup of League One, guys. We've mentioned it already, but some results went our way. Seb, talk us through those. I'll put the league table up and you can tell us what happened to Sheffield Wednesday and what happened to Plymouth, more importantly.
Yeah, so Plymouth obviously was the same time as us on the Friday night, and 0-0 at half time, wasn't it? And then Port Vale scored 2 goals, and they go there. And I mean, Plymouth's home record was they were under their own. They would won every game, hadn't they? I think so far this season at home. Something like 10 out of 10 or something, wasn't it? So an absolutely phenomenal result for Port Vale, and great for us. And like I say, it could have been closer, but we've now clawed back a point on them, so that's great. And then Derby did us a favour the next day against Sheffield Wednesday, a 0-0 at Pride Park, wasn't it? I was worried about that one. I kind of thought, well, Wednesday are going to go there and they'll have the bit between their teeth now and they'll be really fired up for it. And I thought they were going to win that because their recent form's been pretty good. Was it 3 on the bounce? Yeah, there you go, 3 on the bounce before that. But thankfully, Derby did us a bit of a favour. I guess maybe Paul Warne is starting to get his methods across in the training ground after a few weeks now, and that was another favour for us. So thankfully, again, like I said earlier, they didn't claw anything back on us. So from a league position point of view, it's a great weekend.
What sticks out there? Barnsley are the form side.
I was going to say,
they beat Peterborough. Peterborough they beat, wasn't
Barnsley
it?
The form side.
And look at Peterborough as well ahead of the game on Saturday.
And their away record is shocking. I mean, we'll discuss it, I'm sure, on the pre-match show in the week. But Peterborough's away form is like 19th in the league. I think they've got like 9 points from 10 games.
They're 19th. I think they've won 3, haven't drawn any, lost 7.
It's really poor away from home. So another chance to hopefully for us to start to kind of rebuild this form at Portman Road.
So Peterborough 10th in the 6-game form table, but that's 3 wins in a row and now 3 defeats on the bounce. But as you say, Seb, when you convert that to away only, they're 18th in the 6-game form table for away games, and there's 2 wins and 4 defeats there. So very topsy-turvy, but form is definitely downward trending, and it's going to be...
And they are streaky, aren't they? Do you remember at the start of the season, they started really well, then they, including cup games, lost something like 5-6 on the bounce, I think it was, wasn't it? So they are a side that when they do lose a couple tend to go on a little bit of a a downward run. So hopefully we can take advantage of that. But we'll discuss all that, I'm sure, on the pre-match.
I'm feeling a Joe Royal 3-3.
Okay.
Hopefully a 4-3.
I was going to say, hopefully, yeah.
Well, Dave's spidey senses are kicked in a week early.
Don't quote me on that. Can I just say before we go, just on a sad note, good friend of mine, old friend of mine, used to travel home and away. A guy called Andy Button passed away. Sadly, he was been ill for some time. I know he'd been in hospital for the last few months. He moved away up to Scotland, up to Dundee some years ago, and family there. So condolences to his family, and a real true blue going back in the day. Not only football, but used to follow Speedway home and away as well. So yeah, a real true blue, and will be sadly missed.
Yeah, I was chatting to Steve Lewis, who's I hope listens to the podcast, but town fan, known to a lot of people on Twitter, and he tweeted about that on Friday, and we had a chat about Andy as well.
Nice.
I think he definitely enjoyed my tweets with football, with town goals from down the years, but
he did. I know he did.
Yeah, he was a very keen political opinion as well, which he
did. No, he's a fellow Chantry lad, a little bit older than me and my pals, but back in those days, we used to go away and coaches and stuff like that. So yeah, top lad, and only bumped into him. Last time I bumped into him actually was at Sunderland away, and just prior to the kickoff last year at the Stadium of Light, had a sort of good catch up with him then. So yeah, sadly missed.
Yeah, thanks Dave for sharing that, and sad news, and condolences from everyone here and everyone listening and watching, I'm sure, as well. Looking ahead to the week, so we briefly talked there. Peterborough, Seb, you mentioned the pre-match, so we'll be back. Friday night, do you reckon?
It won't be live. No, I'll be travelling back.
You're driving back.
I will be on the A14 at roughly the time of the pre-match show. Will be going
down the right
bit.
Yeah,
I will thank Mr. A14 again. So no, it'll be a pre-record on Thursday night for the pre-match show, out Friday morning or Thursday night, whenever it goes out in time for Peterborough. So.
And what's your match record in attendance?
In away games, phenomenal.
No,
away. Oh no, Sheffield Wednesday at home. It's not great. I saw us beat MK, then Cambridge was cancelled because of the Queen's passing, and then I was at Lincoln 0-1, Cheltenham 1-1. So
Dave, are we turning him back?
Should I give up the season tickets? Because I bought a season ticket, isn't it?
I think it should be turned back. Back at the A14 interchange. I think
I'm gonna get a White House and just block the road and
have a word with our man. Our man
like the bridge.
Our A14 man could do it.
He could relocate the road to turn.
Start putting messages on the bridges. Turn around.
Seb, go home.
Seb, not
delays.
welcome.
Delays. Well, there we go. Well, if you see Seb next week, make sure you rugby tackle him before he gets to Portman Road. No, it'd be great to have you with us, and hopefully a bit of pre-match on Saturday as well.
What time you get the grey on Saturday? About half 8.
Breakfast, wasn't it, John? Excellent.
I'll just stay over a Friday night. I'll have a chat with Dan and the guys and just have my breakfast there as well. So we'll be back next week with usual bits and pieces. Head to Blue Monday, ITFC.co.uk for all the bits and pieces that we talked about, merch, Telegram, all that fun stuff, and all the shows are listed there as well. And at Blue Monday ITFC on Twitter for all the latest news of what we're doing, and our advent calendar as well. Joe's been doing his stats.
Yeah, brilliant.
And we are cataloguing the most international caps by country for ITFC players. So it's you love today, Seb. 4th. Do you know who it is?
Oh, is it Jono?
For Jamaica. There you go.
Jamaica. Yeah.
I'm going to do what I do best: score goals for Scotland. The famous
legend.
Guys, thank you so much. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking with us. Do give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Do give us a review, ideally a 5-star one if you're listening on the podcast. And as I said, we'll be back. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions today. Dave, thank you. We'll say goodbye to you.
Cheers.
Enjoy
on, England.
Woodbridge. Come on, England. Exactly right.
Got to say it.
And Seb, thank you to you. And we'll see you next week. You can say goodbye too.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And like Dave said, come on, England.
And we will see you next time. Thank you for watching and have a good week.